This is the Citcuit Abbey TripFire, which is a 4HP module in Eurorack format, and it's actually a dual module. The top half is a comparator, the bottom half is a trigger/gate delay with 3 different modes. The comparator has 2 inputs. If you just use the top input, the input, you can use this knob to set the threshold of a level to compare against. Comparators are often used to detect peaks in signals such as LFOs or drum beats, and then derive gates from those signals. There's also a second input on the comparator, a reference input, so you can compare 2 signals against each other and get really interesting results. The output of the comparator normals down into the trigger delay, and so I've just got the output of the trigger delay now plugged into an envelope on the maths, and that envelope is going to open a filter that has a little bit of noise added to it. And so now what I'm going to do is plug into the input of the comparator a self-cycling envelope on the maths, the other envelope, and the comparator is going to compare every time this cycle goes higher than the internal level. It's going to give you a gate output. So I'm going to go ahead and turn down the DC offset enough so that the envelope actually goes higher than that level. And then now we're getting the opening of the filter. You're hearing a bit of noise also because it's actually passing noise through there. There's no VCA, it's just the filter. And this comparator can go quite fast. So now I'm replacing the audio source with an external device plugged into the Citcuit Abbey Gozenta input module, and I'm just using my iOS iElectribe Korg drum machine on my iPad. Is that enough eyes? Anyway, and I'm going to plug that into the WASP filter, and also I'm going to plug in, I'm multing that input to also plug it into the comparator. And we're going to derive some nice openings of the filter from the comparator. And now what I can do, since I'm already normaled into the trigger delay, I'm just going to give a little bit of delay so I can offset the envelope opening. So you get these really nice, strange, sympathetic, related, but not expected rhythms of envelope opening. So now we're testing out the second input, the reference input, on the comparator, and I've once again got my self-oscillating envelope going over here, self-cycling envelope, and I'm going to turn up my drum beat, and what's going to happen is that every time the envelope goes high, the drum beat signal, the actual comparison, is going to go low. So we'll get something that is sort of a combination of the 2 rhythms. Okay, now we'll take a look at the bottom half of the TripFire, the trigger delay. The trigger delay has 3 different modes. One is the first one is the green one, which is just a trigger delay. And the second one, the orange one, is a delay of the onset of a gate, so the rising edge of a gate, and then the falling of the edge of the gate happens without a delay, so it happens exactly the same time as the input's fall happens. And then the third mode, the red mode, is an actual full-on gate delay. So a really cool thing that actually plays back everything that's put into it, every gate length, at the same timing as its input, but only, you know, delayed by the delay amount. The delay is up to 1 second, although there's a jumper on the back, so you can actually set it up to 8 seconds if you feel like getting experimental with it. So I've got the maths hooked into a MIDI interface that is hooked up to my keyboard, and this side is just for an indicator of the original signal. It's a mult out of the original signal from the keyboard, and this side is the output of the trigger delay, so you can see what's going on. So we'll start off just taking a look at the regular trigger delay. Crank that up a little bit. Okay, and then let me go ahead and plug into the other input of the mask, which is better for a sustained input. And we'll try out the first gate mode. Crank that up a little bit. A little bit more. So this mode is really good for if you have, for instance, an LFO that you want to kick in a few, milliseconds or up to a second or up to 8 seconds after you hold down a key, but you want everything to turn off as soon as you let go of the key. And then the third mode actually does full on gate delay. So one thing you can do, if you give it really fast gates, and in the up to 8 seconds that happen, it'll play back, record and play back up to 220 events. So if you're putting in more than 110 gates or more than 220 triggers in that time, then you can actually trip it up and make it not play a trigger or a gate, but you'd have to be doing some fairly fancy stuff to make that happen. So anyway, that's a really cool module, really cool half of the TripFire, and something that I'm not really sure exists anywhere else, at least in Euro, is that full-on gate delay, those 2 gate delay modes. And it's really nice to have a full-on comparator with both types of inputs in such a small space. So it's really a combination of 2 must-have utility modules that are just really indispensable in such a small space and for a really decent price.